So this is crazy. Freaking crazy, actually. We're moving to Germany. It's real. It's happening.
And it's soon.
Yeah.
In this video, we're going to outline the who, what, where, when, how, why. Basically everything of what we know up to now. And then in a separate video, we're going to outline basically from start to finish of how things really happened. So my current job with the US government at Hill Air Force Base, my transition is going to be to an army position, an army base in Germany. My position is in Grafenwehr, Germany, which is in the Bavaria state or region, which gets us really excited because we're close to Austria, Czech, and then we're also close to Switzerland. By far our favorite European country, if not our favorite country in the world that we've been to.
Seriously.
And just being in a greener, more humid climate compared to Utah, where it's a desert, it gets really cold in the winters, really hot in the summers. Having a more temperate climate is something we're really excited for. Not to mention outdoors opportunities everywhere.
We're hoping to stay in the city of Weiden, which is 2 hours away from Prague, which is awesome. We're just really excited to go to the local farmers markets and see all the cool German architecture and just like get an experience being in such a historical country.
And our schedule time is 3 years minimum. We're thinking we have the option 3 to 5.
And 5 years max.
We're kind of going to see. We're just going to go with the flow and see how we feel. So this has been a long time in the making. A long time. First heard about this particular position in Germany back in like June, maybe even May of 2020. And here we are February 2021, and we're still about 6 weeks away from actually going. So we've had a good 7 to 9 months where we've really just been able to like make sure that this is something that we want to do, and we feel extremely good about it. Our real desire started like at the end of 2018. We were backpacking Southeast Asia and Australia, New Zealand, and Tahiti, and we knew that we wanted to do longer. Aside from being able to see wonderful, beautiful places, tasting amazing foods, we also wanted to, provide ourselves with like cultural diversity and to get to know people other ways too.
Yeah, and that's one of our biggest whys. We want Willa and our little family to be exposed to the diversity that's going to come from living in Germany, to be surrounded by so many different countries and cultures and religions and just everything that comes with living in a different world. We want to see what life is like across the world, honestly. We both grew up in homes where we didn't even travel internationally till we were about 18. And so we think it's awesome that Willa will be able to have a different life growing up, and she'll be able to recognize the differences and hopefully love them like we do. And we just want to learn more about people in the world, and we are super excited to taste all the amazing food. Germany's located in an awesome location in Europe where it's surrounded by so many countries. It's honestly like a great central location to travel, and so that's definitely one of our reasons why. And then we're also really excited about the closeness that it's going to bring to our little family. During our college years, we left for the summer to go like have an internship or work took us other places, and we loved those moments where it was just us two and we were able to lean on each other more. That's kind of naturally what happens when you're away from family. We know it's going to be a little bit lonely. That's kind of obviously what comes from being halfway across the world. Those lonely times bring you closer, and those struggles that come from being away from family and friends and from your comfort, those things teach you and they stretch you, but there's growth that comes from it. And so we're excited to have that. Those are mostly our why. That's a lot, right?
Yeah,
that's like a ton.
That's a lot. Yeah, I was like, well, it's time. How do you go about finding that? Like you just Google search stuff, and that's what we started off doing.
Yep.
We didn't really find anything else. Like I have other classmates who live in Saudi Arabia and others who have done work in Central America, and you don't know how to find that out besides asking them, right? And so I asked around, didn't really find anything for a while. And when we were in New Zealand in the South Island, I got an email from my professor saying, hey, there's this awesome opportunity at the Air Force Base in Utah. Take a look into it. We thought, great, it was an opportunity we had. I had just passed up a job with Boeing up in Seattle, and the reason why, just because of cost of living, we didn't think that an entry-level position was going to be the best situation financially for us. and we just felt like there was something else out there for us.
We wanted to be closer to family too.
Flash forward, we're really happy that we didn't take it because we're in a position now where we can live internationally. So I was offered this position here. We took it. We've been here for almost 2 years, and little did we know this was going to be an opportunity. So about 6 months into the job, I kept finding out that other people had gone on temporary deployments to Europe or to even to like Alaska and other places, and I thought, wow, that's fantastic. How do you do that? And come to find out, there are permanent deployments, or PCSs, permanent change of station, for civilians. So obviously, as you can tell with the hair and this facial hair, I am not a active duty military. I work as a civilian service employee for the government, and there are a lot of differences between what can go on, but the main benefit is those same opportunities to go outside of the states, or even within the states, just to random areas are there. So we applied to Japan, we applied to Hawaii, we applied to Germany, we applied to another Japan, we applied to
a lot.
I think about 10 positions, honestly.
So many.
Until, I had a couple interviews, a couple offers. All the rest of them fell through except for this one. And we are ecstatic. We are so excited that things have lined up the way that they have. And ultimately, that's what we hope that this video can do for you, is you find out it doesn't have to be, an engineering position, or it doesn't have to be like the super high position. I mean, what does your aunt do over there?
Yeah, so I have an aunt who's a librarian in Germany. She was a librarian in the States. I think she worked for the government. Eventually, obviously, she worked for the government, and she found out about an international opportunity. She took it as a librarian. So don't think that you can't have this opportunity. Of course, there's certain jobs that just the government doesn't really hire on as a civilian. Maybe instead it's more of a contractor position. But look into it, because you might be surprised to find that there's international opportunities for you. The only thing with it, though, is you have to have 1 year in the U.S. before you can move internationally. Correct?
That was our situation.
Yeah.
All of my positions, I had to have previous government experience. And so your situation might be different. So check it out.
One thing that I think is really cool about our situation is the fact that we had turned down a job before getting this one, that we didn't know about the international opportunity, and that we just felt like this was right for us. And it's just really cool to look back and be like, oh my gosh, like, truly we believe that God was in the details of like our job that Tanner landed in, our future. And I don't know, it's just cool when you think of that, of like, we were in the exact right place to have this opportunity that we've been wanting for so long, and we didn't even know. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So aside from being able to live internationally, there are a lot of other benefits, such as housing stipends, living stipends, and a lot of resources. Not to mention you get to be a lot closer with a family. We haven't experienced it yet, but we're assuming that everyone is pretty tight-knit, living in a community with a lot of other Americans, active duty and civilians. We're really excited about that camaraderie. Typically, you don't get that when you're here living around a whole bunch of other Americans, and it's just a day-to-day job. They've got their thing to do. But we're going to be so far away from family. They're going to be a second family, and becoming that. And being in that tight of a group, I think we're excited to see how that really changes us and what experiences there are there.
So when we were looking for international positions, we talked about how we would have still taken a job even if it was like equal pay, or possibly even a little less money than what Tanner was currently making or is currently making. We just really wanted to prioritize travel, and so we knew how much we loved it before, and that's like we feel most ourselves when we're doing that and exploring, and so that was our priority. It wasn't pay or anything, but it's been really, really surprising for us to find out how good of a gig it is to move internationally with government. Another thing that they do is do like moving relocation. So it's really awesome because we don't have to pay to move over there. There's going to be expenses, a few, but for the most part, they're covering the cost of like moving. We're going to be shipping a car. So it makes it worth it, right? Because you would think moving internationally is a lot of money, and how do you even invest to be able to do that? But that's how, it's because you have to find either a private industry that's going to cover those costs to make it financially worth it, or just prioritize that experience more, or get in with government, because it's a pretty good gig, which was just a nice benefit to find out. And I think good for people to know, because we had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, look into it and see if it's something that would be good for you and your family.
I love the work-life balance at my job. I get to have great hours. I'm usually home by 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
We have daylight, especially during the shorter days in the winter. And we love that idea of being over in Germany and having that same schedule, or a close enough one that it makes our time just really, really well balanced. One of the great things is you're not alone. We have a great sponsor. He follows up with us very frequently. I ask questions. He's quick to respond. And it makes it easier for the transition, because it's a completely different beast. And not to mention how many forms there are to fill in paperwork, and just keeping track of everything can be overwhelming. Almost weekly, we're just like thinking, oh man, I don't know which direction we need to go, what we're waiting on. Fortunately, we have a sponsor and other offices that you can reach out to that help you along with that movement. And so that's how we've been able to make it happen too, is we have a lot of help from other people. We wouldn't know how to do it any differently, but fortunately that's where we are.
Just to paint a clear picture, once Tanner got that job offer, that's when the sponsor contacted Tanner, and that sponsor is like a coworker who's already living, in our case, in Germany. So that's like kind of the timeline, is Tanner gets the offer, then he's in contact with the sponsor, who basically tells us everything we need to do, and getting a car, shipping it, setting dates for packers to come here, purchasing flights, all of those documents. There's so many documents, and just like figuring out our date to be there, and finding temporary housing. Like, there's so much to do, and we're going to talk about all of the details in more depth in future videos, so stay tuned for that. I think that's kind of it. After that, once we do all these things, our date comes for us to fly, and then we leave.
Yeah. So with any move, but especially with an international move, there are a lot of things. We've moved about a dozen times in our marriage, which is about every 6 to 7 months we've moved on average. We know how it goes, and it's not that stressful. We pack our stuff up, we go to the next place, we start over again, and it's pretty simple. It's not too bad.
Not a big deal for us.
But with this one, it's a lot bigger, because now we have Willa. We're moving across the country, or we're moving across the world. We're shipping things across the world. We're shipping a vehicle across the world, and so a lot of times we catch ourselves being overwhelmed with the number of things to do. The waiting game has really been difficult too. Like I mentioned before, it was about summer of 2020 when we really found out and applied for this job, interviewed in the fall, and here we are at February, and we're still a couple weeks away from it. Whereas most jobs, you interview, get the offer, and you give your job 2 weeks and then you go. So within a matter of 2-3 months you could be gone. Whereas this has been like a 9-month kind of process.
Yeah, that waiting game is so hard, because there's just so many unknowns. You wait forever to find out if you got the job, then you wait forever to find out when you're going to leave, and then you wait forever. It's just like a constant waiting game. So when we got our final offer, it was only last Friday. So we have, since that point, a little less than 2 months to be in Germany. So if you think about that and all that we have to do, it's a lot, and it's hard to, kind of process it, just like realize that the time's so short, and so we want to spend so much time with family and friends, but COVID puts in a whole nother level and a whole nother issue. That's hard, because we want to see friends, but honestly, we're not going to be able to because of COVID, and that is pretty heartbreaking. It's just like juggling our time and figuring out how to spend it best, while also taking care of ourselves and like making sure we're okay.
Yeah. Ultimately, we're excited. That's the most important aspect that we're really looking at. We understand there's going to be changes and stresses, but ultimately we're excited for this. This is what we've been working for. It's been our goal and dream for a while, and so we're excited to show you guys, like, this is the whole purpose of why we're telling our story. That's the purpose of our name, is telling our story of how we're getting there, of how life is there. We want to hear how that affects you too. So don't forget to subscribe. Please let us know anything, any concerns, any questions you have. If you want to learn more about how to find international opportunities within the government, or even just in general how life is for us, like, we want to share and make things easier for you.
Be on the lookout for more videos, because this is just the first of so many about this experience. We've tried to document as much as possible. So next week we're going to be explaining more of the how, and you're going to be able to see like our reactions to everything. So from interviewing and our feelings to finding out we got the job to telling parents and all of the things that we've been doing, you're going to get a first insider's view of what it's been like for us.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us again.
Bye.